Well, if anyone else walks in, or Warren, feel free to let people in as they join the waiting room. We'll just go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Jesse Wieland. I'm the Associate Director right across the hall at the Office of National Fellowships, and I'll let my colleague introduce himself as well.
Hi, I'm Warren. I'm also from across the hall, but on the other side in the Center for Undergraduate Research and Academic Engagement. I'm here to not only do this part, but also I'll tell you guys about another opportunity that we do have on campus for actually doing an abroad experience that's less study and more internship based.
Yeah, and so we're going to be talking about a few different fellowships and obviously about our office, but the way that it typically works is that I work with students on the side where we'll work on your applications to get the funding that you need to have an international experience. Warren is one of many offices that have programs and opportunities that'll help get you there. And so to kind of delve into what a fellowship is, because I know that can kind of be a nebulous term, but the way that I describe it, or the easiest way to describe it, is that it's a scholarship that has some sort of learning outcome attached to it. So at ONF, we work with students on dozens and dozens and dozens of different fellowships where that learning outcome could be an international experience. It could be related to research, whether you're in STEM or in humanities, but just research in general. Could be studying a foreign language, could be a creative art project, and there are many different fellowships in all of these different realms that can help you fund that experience. Now, that could exist at Florida State, but typically with many of the awards that we work with, that is going to be sending you to, maybe somewhere else in the state of Florida, somewhere else in the South, somewhere else in the United States, or abroad at another university or with a different organization. These are just very eclectic opportunities. And so part of our job is to help you find both on and off campus, the scholarships, the opportunities that align with your academic, your personal, your professional interests. And then we work with you on those applications, on those personal statements, those statements of purpose, to make sure that you're presenting yourself as well on paper as you can present yourself in person. Because I know sometimes these essays can be a little bit different from what you're writing. It's not like you're writing for one of your classes that you're going to take, or you're writing a research essay or something that's it's a little bit more of a blend between that personal creative writing and this academic writing. And so we're here to help coach you through that. Now, kind of why should you be working with our office, just more broadly speaking, is that these fellowships, these opportunities are going to be available to you from your first semester on campus until your last semester on campus. And then we still work with alumni as well. And so some of these opportunities are specifically geared toward, because I know some of you are first or second year students, raise your hand. Mostly? Okay. And so there are opportunities that are going to be geared towards lower division students, upper division students, or opportunities, and we'll touch on some of these at the very end of the presentation, that you can't even apply to until your senior year, because it'll fund graduate school, it'll fund something after you earn your bachelor's degree. And so the best piece of advice that I can offer is it's never too early to apply to these. You are in, not just in the fellowship realm, but learning how to, you're going to be received. I'm trying to say this politely because I don't want this to sound in any way negative. It's like, just in life in general, you're going to get more no's than you get yeses. But it's about applying. It's about pushing yourself. It's about, pursuing the opportunities that are going to be impactful for both your learning, whether it's during your time at Florida State or beyond. And with Gilman specifically, one of the main awards that we're going to highlight, luckily, that's one of those awards where we do hear many more yeses than we hear no's. And so we're here to help you find those opportunities, apply to these opportunities, and make sure that you're getting the most out of your undergraduate experience while you're here at FSU. So yes, we're working and helping you improve your writing ability, but many of these opportunities are also going to have campus or off-campus interviews attached to the process. And so we're here to help you find those resources, how to coach you through those interviews. And something else that, because as a first generation student myself, there were many things that I just didn't know when I was going to college. It was just, I assumed I just go to class. If I do well, I perform well, I graduate. Well, that's why I'm here, right? And that is why you're here. But it's about these learning experiences outside of the classroom where I think you can really make the most of your time here. Something else that I was unfamiliar with is that, I should be building professional connections with my faculty, with the staff here on campus, because, you know, well, for some opportunities this year, but in 2, 3, or 4 years, I'm going to need those letters of recommendation, many of which are attached to many of our processes. The nice thing about Gilman, which again, we'll get into in a moment, there are no letters of recommendation required. As long as you can find a program that is significant to you in your academic studies or your professional growth, that's enough. And we'll figure out how to fit that into into the application. So we're really here to find those opportunities that are going to prepare you for leadership positions on campus, prepare you for opportunities off campus, prepare you for professional school and graduate school, and help build your academic and your professional network. So, and of course, as I'm going through all of this, if you're joining us online, please feel free to type into the chat if you have questions, and Warren will convey that to me, or feel free to ask questions as we're going through this presentation. So one of the many scholarships that we work with, the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship, is specifically for students that are receiving federal Pell Grants that want to pursue an opportunity abroad. That can be kind of your traditional study abroad experience, like I'm traveling abroad, I'm taking classes. It could be an internship opportunity. It could be a research opportunity, regardless of what it is, as long as it counts for academic credit. And the good thing is most, if not all, the programs through Florida State University will qualify for credit. Those are all going to count for you. And so we can get into all of the nitty gritty in a little bit, but to kind of dumb it down, it's up to $5,000 to apply towards a program if you're choosing. Now, there are specific opportunities that would allow you to qualify for more funding. And so specifically, this critical need language opportunity, the US government has put a lot of funding into these different programs. And so Gilman operates under this larger umbrella. It's called IIE, the Institute for International Education, and they fund a lot of different fellowships, for international study, engagement, cultural exchange. And so IIE, the Critical Language Scholarship, Gilman, the Boren Scholarship, many of these different opportunities have identified these among many other languages that are of critical need to US national security. And I'm using that phrase very loosely. People have defined national security relative to public health, other social initiatives, relative to the STEM and research and sciences. And so if you have any interest in studying these languages, even if you have no background experience in that language, but you can find that congruency between these are my academic and my professional interests, and to do that work to the quality that I need to, or to maybe better work with the populations that I would like to work with, I need to study this language, then we can find a program that would allow you to do that. This next edition, it was just added this year, and so Gilman understands, like, they want to make study abroad as accessible to all students of all academic interests, of all backgrounds. And so they recognize that for some STEM students, there are additional costs in order to access research abroad, whether that be lab fees or books, other materials. And so they just recently added this short additional essay that you can write that would qualify you for up to $6,000 towards your program. Now, that is a sliding scale. We have plenty of students that do receive the full amount, but usually on average, students will be receiving anywhere from $3,500 to that $5,000. And sometimes it depends on your program, because you can list, this is the cost of my program, maybe this is how much scholarship funding that I am receiving, and maybe I have this $2,500 tab that I need to be picked up. And so if you need less funding to cover that full cost, you can mention that in your application. Not saying that makes you necessarily more or less competitive, but it is something to Gilman wants to be aware of, to make sure they're distributing these funds as equitably as possible. And so the other nice thing about Gilman is that you can apply up to a full year in advance of when your program actually starts. And so if you're worried about funding this opportunity, so for example, if I was either studying abroad this summer, or maybe I'm planning to study abroad fall of 24, I could still apply this semester and find out probably around early January whether or not I received funding. And then I could couple that funding with other scholarships to hopefully stack on top of one another. So by the time I do travel abroad, I have enough money, or maybe even in some cases more funding than I need for that program. And that additional funding could go towards travel while you're in country, or souvenirs, just help you better enjoy that experience while you're abroad. Does this all kind of make sense so far in terms of like the scholarship amount? And okay, we'll get more into the nitty gritty in just a second. So to touch on eligibility, you do need to be a US citizen or national to qualify. And you need, rarely is this second bullet point ever an issue. To be in good academic standing at your university. Gilman has no GPA requirement, and Gilman is very understanding of students like, hey, I had a rough semester, and you can talk about this in your essays, but that is not indicative of my ability. And also, I'm sorry it's so hot up here. We got here this morning and the AC was busted, so we're still trying to like blast the air. So again, thank you for being here in person. And so if you have any concern about the academic standing aspect, please talk to me. And now you need to be receiving a Pell Grant either at the time of application or during the program. And so again, if you have any questions about that, I would encourage you to reach out to your financial aid advisor, and I can help you with that and make that connection. And now the other nice thing, and this goes back to what I was saying about that timeline and how you can apply well in advance of when you hope to study abroad. Gilman understands that their deadlines are usually earlier than when you will be applying to this program. And that's okay. You don't need that formal offer letter. I've had plenty of students over the years that have been accepted and received the scholarship funding, and their entire application was just a detailed best guess as to this is the organization I plan to be interning with, this is where I'm going to be, this is the culture that I'll be engaging with. And as long as you can talk to the people at Florida State, and again, that's where Warren and myself can come in handy, by either putting you in connection with the organization or putting you in connection with alumni that have done this opportunity to get the details that you need. Again, you can still receive funding anywhere from that 6 months to a full year before you actually start the program. And then you can research this online if you just, honestly just Google, US travel advisory. It'll bring you to the Department of State's website where you can look up these different countries. As long as it's a level 1 or 2, that's fine. And these do fluctuate. So you want to make sure that leading up to the deadline, you are checking that. That is not going to impact your status. And so what I mean by that is, say if you're applying to a country that's say a level 2, and then after you apply that changes and it's a level 3, Gilman will still review your application as if it's a 1 or 2. The worst that would happen is like, hey, you've been selected for the scholarship, but you do need to find a new program, and we can work with you on that. Questions about that? And I saw that you had your hand up.
Yes. What specifically is a national of the US?
If you're like from like the US Virgin Islands, or you're from Puerto Rico.
So permanent residency would go through that.
So if you don't have citizenship, we can find other scholarship opportunities that would qualify. That would still so if you don't qualify for this particular scholarship. I have had students in the past that don't have citizenship their freshman year, but maybe that's something they're pursuing and will have later, and then that's totally fine. We can circle back to this. But Florida State, as long as you're a student at Florida State University, there is so much funding and programs that you will qualify for, and so we can talk about what your major is. And put you in connection with some other opportunities as well. And another side note to that is just through our listserv, through NAFA, it's the National Association of Fellowship Advisors. This is more information than you need, but somebody just compiled and sent out a list of scholarships for students who don't have citizenship. So please bring that up, and I would love to share that document with you. It's a really good question. Any other questions so far? Anything, and feel free to type into the chat if you do have any questions. Now, again, another benefit of working with our office is both myself and my colleague, Bonnie, who couldn't be here today. We have both served on these review committees for the Gilman Scholarship multiple times, and I have read more applications probably than any sane person should. And so I have a really good idea of what goes into that selection process and how you can craft your essays to be as authentic as possible, as detailed as possible. But this is the general outline of what Gilman is looking for. And so academic preparedness and impact on students' trajectory. It's a very wordy way of saying they want to see how this program is relevant to you and the direction that you're headed. That's going to look different whether you're a freshman on campus or a senior on campus. Some students can talk about that relative, okay, so I'm going to go participate in this program in the summer. Then once I come back in the fall semester, maybe this is how it's going to impact the courses that I'll be able to take. Maybe I'll qualify for some internships that I've been, pursuing, whether that's on or off campus. Whereas if you're a senior, you know, I've had students that have done this their very last semester. So this summer program I'm participating in, maybe concurrent with that, I'm applying to graduate school, professional school, but this is where I see myself following the program. So they just want to see that trajectory. Diversity of background and experience, again, that's extremely multifaceted. That could be in your essays, students sometimes talk about the environments that they grew up in, the cities that they're from, how that maybe has shaped them, how that has shaped their academic interests. Students have talked about, so what they're getting at is they just want to know who you are as a person. They want to know what has played into the decisions that you've made, why you've enrolled at Florida State University, why you've pursued this program. And so you want to, and we'll get into the specific essays later, but you want to be able to balance both. This is my experience, this is who I am, and this is what I'm pursuing. So that's where it's kind of this split between a personal statement and a statement of purpose. Now, destination is, what that means is Gilman loves to see students pursuing international experiences in countries or regions that are traditionally like under accessed when we're thinking about American study abroad programs. And so the majority of recipients for Gilman are still going to be in like the United Kingdom, in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, in France, in Western Europe, because those are oftentimes for college students in the US the most accessible programs. However, and this is something that Warren will be able to speak to in just a little bit, there are many programs, both through Florida State University, through other opportunities, where it's if I'm really passionate about, you know, Southeast Asia, you know, maybe we've had students through Global Scholars and other programs that have studied abroad in Thailand and in Vietnam. We have students that have pursued opportunities within Africa and within Eastern Europe, which tend to be those preferred regions, Eastern Europe, Africa, and Southeast Asia, just because Gilman wants to see more students taking advantage of opportunities in those regions. Now, if you're wanting to go to Latin or South America, somewhere in Western Europe, that's absolutely fine. It's not going to impede your ability to be selected, but maybe say if I'm wanting to study abroad in Kenya, maybe that would be like a small plus to my application, something that the review committees would take note of. The impact to community is going to come out in the essay in two different ways. So you're going to have, for most applicants, you have 3 essays that you need to write. And the first community impact essay is in relation to, okay, so I'm in this community. So how am I going to make a positive impact there based on my involvement? Maybe based on identities that I've held or experiences that I've had. This is why I'm a good representative for what it means to be an American. And so I know, and that's kind of like a weird prompt for some students to approach because they've never really had to think about themselves in that international setting before. But it's about half a page to really be able to explore that. Now, the other essay that you're going to write is about the impacts of the community that you return to. And so that could be your Florida State community, that could be your community back home. And so it's framed in terms of like this follow-on project, like how are you going to make a positive impact based on the experience that you've had with that community. We'll get into that a little bit more. And then these last 2 are only relevant if you're applying to a critical need language opportunity or the supplemental STEM award. Questions about the selection criteria? Okay. And so where to get started? Obviously, feel free to pull up the scholarship website. They have many different resources for you. You can take a look at the specific prompts and essays, but we'll touch on those in a second. They also have videos, blogs, a podcast that you can listen to just hear about other student experience. And again, I have been working with students on this application for the last 8 years. And the benefit of that is that if you're interested in a specific program, if you're interested in a specific country or region, like odds are pretty good that I have a student I could put you, or now an alumni, that I could put you in contact with to be able to talk about that experience, how that experience has impacted them. You know, maybe what are they doing now in their professional career, or in some cases graduate school. So it's really about using the resources available to you. Now, find the program that best, and Warren, I promise at the end, I'm going to give you some time to talk about your, you know, so whether it's the most visible program on campus, FSU International Programs, they have many great opportunities. again, what I mentioned earlier, as a first-gen student myself, I came to Florida State with the scholarship funding that I came with, and I did not have much money beyond that. And so when I saw IP programs, my initial reaction was like, okay, that's like 10K, like, where am I gonna get that? And so I immediately opted myself out of that. But with Gilman, if we're using, okay, so if this program is 10K, Gilman could provide up to 5,000. You also qualify for FSU IP scholarships. And that's something that if you spend time on their website, they have scholarships for students who identify that they have financial need. They have students for very specific locations that you're studying abroad in. They have scholarships for very specific programs. There's plenty that you could qualify for. So I have students that apply to a Gilman scholarship, and then they apply to, say, 5 different IP scholarships that they qualify for to apply. And so you can receive, and I have had many students that have done this in the past, that have received more than the funding that they need to cover that program. So don't let cost impede the program that you choose if it's a really good program for you. Through the Center for Global Engagement, we also have a global exchange program. So international programs, that's by and large, they do have internship opportunities, they do have plenty of other experiences, but more often than not, it's going to be that traditional study experience. Like I'm taking classes. Now they have anything from a broad curriculum program where I'm taking eclectic, grouping of classes to very specific, major specific programs and anything in between. Now, the benefit of going to an IP program is like, okay, so if this is like my first time leaving the country, it's nice because you go with other Florida State students. You're sometimes at a study center, or you're at least with a smaller group, and that can be comforting. Now, a global exchange program, they have a more diverse listing of countries that you could study at, but that is going to be, in some cases, not all, a more autonomous experience. So I'm going to feel like I'm an international student on this college campus. And so if you're looking for that more immersive experience, or maybe, maybe I'll like look at an IP program, or maybe if I apply to Gilman next year, maybe a global exchange would be a good fit for me. But if you're looking for a more immersive experience, that could be a really good fit. Global Scholars is what Lauren is going to talk about later. They have both domestic opportunities and international opportunities, and that is usually more of like the internship experience. Like I'm going to get to this community, get my hands dirty, work with this organization. Then we also have Beyond Borders, which is more of like your cultural exchange opportunity. You're not taking classes, it's not a work experience, but you're meeting and engaging with college students. They have a summer program in Germany and then a spring break program in Jamaica, if I'm remembering correctly. Either would qualify. And so the nice thing is you get to go to the country, engage with the students there, and then they come here, you get to host them here. AIFS is another, it's for college students in the United States studying abroad. It's not specific to FSU, but it is eligible. And then, I also have students that find other programs and bring that to me, and we can go through that together and make sure that it's an eligible program for you. Now, this information at the bottom is just here to really emphasize that, yes, this is a scholarship you can apply to entirely on your own. You do not have to come and talk to me or Bonnie, but having crunched the numbers over the past few years, so the national acceptance rate for Gilman is usually hovers around like 22–23%. If you apply solo, just based on the numbers that I have of students that have applied since I've been working in the office, 20% is still not bad when you're thinking about these nationally competitive awards, but it is below the national average for Gilman. But if you work with our office, you're about 2.5 times more likely to be selected. That comes from the experience Bonnie and I have on serving on these review panels, but really just helping you to make sure you're getting as much good detail and experience in those essays, really delving into your goals, and really hitting every major point of the prompt. And so we're just here to help you. We want to make sure that you have the best chances possible to receive the funding that you need to study abroad. I'm just going to kind of breeze through this as quickly as I can. I know I'm very long-winded, so I appreciate y'all putting up with me. The statement of purpose essay, 7,000 characters, what that equates to is about 1.5 pages single space. It's not a lot, especially when you're thinking in that statement of purpose, it's asking me about my personal background, my experience. It's asking me about the program that I'm participating in and why I'm participating in it. And it's asking me to dig into the goals that I have, whether those are, immediate academic goals or future goals that I have for myself. Now, these are the two essays that talk about community impact. So this building mutual understanding essay is the one in the community that you are going to. How are you going to be that positive representation where you may be the first American that someone engages with, and so you may represent things that you absolutely subscribe to and things that you don't, but your job is to be tactful and patient in those settings. And so how can you convey to a reader that I have those soft skills? Sometimes through anecdotal evidence, or I've had students that have approached it more of like kind of a think piece of just thinking about the society that we live in today and that polarization. Now the follow-on service project is the one where you come back to Florida State University, the community that you know. I think the best way to approach that is it's just being pragmatic. By all means, craft a project, and they have plenty of examples on the website of what you can do. I have had students that have talked about art installation projects that they want to do, and that's fantastic, but you have a semester to complete that upon your return. So if you're studying abroad during the summer, you have the fall to complete it. If you're studying abroad during the fall, you have the spring to complete it. And so I want to make sure that you're using the opportunities that are readily available to you. I've had students that have talked about being members of the CARE program at FSU, or other professional organizations at FSU, and they talk about, hey, this is this organization, these are the students that are in this room, and this is how I can share my experience in a way that may be impactful. So maybe they are more familiar with the Gilman Scholarship, or maybe they develop their own efficacy when it comes to studying abroad. The Critical Language Award, so if you're studying that language, this is just a slight exploration of why is this language proficiency so necessary for me in my development. This supplemental STEM essay, it's only 1,000 characters, it's not much, but just to really emphasize why this research is relevant, both for the program that you're participating in, but relative to your career. No letters of recommendation. And now this deadline of October 5th is still, it's like we simultaneously have so much time, but that is going to creep up on you quickly. And so I would, and I'm speaking for Bonnie as well, and Keyshawn, who's our new graduate assistant, we would love to speak with you as early as next week. So this is something that you're thinking about, well, maybe this summer, maybe next year. We would love to set up a one-on-one meeting with you. And so our availability will be at the end. So please just feel free to reach out to us. Now, and just to clarify, this is for any program starting between December 1st of this year and Halloween of next year. So if that start date of the program is within that range, I can tell you right now, not as many students apply early, so it's never a guarantee, but your odds of being selected early are much greater than if you wait until the deadline that's going to be this March. The other benefit of that is, okay, say I apply by October 5th and I don't get it. Okay, well, I can just craft my application, I can continue to workshop it, and I can reapply in March. So you kind of have that 2-for-1 chance to be selected. This one I'm going to talk about very quickly. So Gilman also, so if you are the dependent of an active duty military member, you can still apply for the Gilman Scholarship, but you would technically be applying for the Gilman McCain Scholarship. It is exactly the same, except you don't need to be receiving a Pell Grant. You just need to be receiving any type of financial aid. But if you identify in this way, this is a scholarship they're really trying to recruit more applicants for. And I know because I want to get to questions, and I'm already taken half an hour. So the Freeman Asia Scholarship in many ways is very similar to what Gilman offers, but you do not need to be receiving a Pell Grant. You just need to be qualifying for financial aid. And this one does have a GPA requirement of a 2.8, but it is region specific. So if you're pursuing a program in Cambodia, China is unfortunately, maybe not, we kind of have to wait and see. But if you're applying to any of these other countries, Florida State does have some programs in these regions. Global Scholars could offer an outlet to do that. But this is another scholarship to maybe apply to in tandem with Gilman if the region that you're studying in is relevant. Now, these are things that I would love to break down with you in a one-on-one meeting, but to kind of touch on them, the Critical Language Scholarship and the David L. Boren Scholarship are for students that are studying critical need languages. And so the CLS is a summer program. It's something that you could apply to, again, in tandem with your Gilman Scholarship. The Boren Scholarship can be up to a full year. abroad, at another university, another program, as long as you are prioritizing the critical need language. Now there's the list that I showed at the very beginning of this presentation. CLS and Gilman operate with the same list. Boren has a much more extensive list. And so visit their website. Princeton in Asia and Africa, they're two separate programs, but this is more for like your work experience, internship experience in those regions. They have shorter stint programs, but this is usually for students who are looking for maybe that gap year experience following graduation. Humanity in Action is a summer program. You're eligible from your sophomore year up until 2 years out of graduation. And that is for any student that is interested in human rights and social justice relative to their field of study. They have both domestic and international programs available. Project Horseshoe Farm, if you're thinking, maybe I want to go to med school, maybe I want to work in public health, maybe I want to work in social work. They have summer internship programs, but then they also have a 13-month-long gap year opportunity after you graduate to engage with communities that have difficulty accessing these resources. DoddRise and Amgen for any STEM students. DoddRise is full funding to participate in research in Germany. You do not need to know German. And Amgen is both for domestic study and then if you're wanting to pursue research in East Asia. Again, you don't need to know the language, they operate in English. The US-UK Fulbright Summer Institute, if you're a first or second year student, it's a summer program in the UK. Those programs change every single year. And so they want to expose you to a new culture, to a new region. They have plenty of programs and opportunities to help you engage with that, but then you're participating in a very specific program that has a specific curricular focus. And so in the past they've had programs that have focused on agriculture. They've had others that have focused on business. They've had others that have focused on arts, activism, and social justice. And so, like I said, they change every year. And then this Fulbright US student program, that is one of those opportunities that I was mentioning at the very beginning of this presentation where, there are programs from your very first semester on campus, like Gilman, US-UK, Critical Language Scholarship, many others. And then these are opportunities. Fulbright is up to a full year after you graduate. You need your bachelor's in order to be eligible. But that could be, say, I'm pursuing a fully funded one-year master's program abroad. I'm pursuing a research opportunity. I'm pursuing an English teaching assistantship. But they operate in over 140 different countries. And so it's an opportunity we send students to every single year. There are more on our website, onf.fsu.edu, so please feel free to visit that. This is our contact information, so please feel free to write that down. And like I said, if you would like to set up a one-on-one meeting to just talk more about your specific interests, or maybe there is a program you already know that you want to participate in, we would be happy to go through that with you and then to start breaking down that application. There is still going to be plenty of time for questions. I know it's very hot in this room, and so again, I apologize. But if you need to head out at any point, please just feel free to email me any questions that you have. Warren, would you like to talk briefly about global scholars and how that aligns with the Gilman Scholarship?
Yeah, let's do that. Sorry, that was a little bit too much of an exclamation.
No, it's what I mean. What I mean.
Before I get started, this should take me a little bit of time, but I just want to go around. Tell me, what do you want to do? What's your name? What do you want to do?
No pressure.
My major.
Yeah, no, your name and like, what do you want to do? Like, why are you here? What do you want to do abroad?
My name is Jamal. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that I'm leaning towards environmental science, so I'd like to go to a different, country to figure out how,
We've had students that have used Gilman for projects like that in the past.
My name is Christopher. I also don't know what I want to do study abroad, but my major is finance.
Okay.
My name's Layla. I eventually want to work in prison reform, but I am very interested in like the cyclical nature of the prison system, and so I'd be interested in like going to communities that are heavily impacted by that potentially abroad.
Awesome.
My name is Jamar. My major is nursing, and I don't know what I would really do with it, but honestly, it'd be a great experience.
Yeah.
My name is Daria. I want to do something like in sports and medicine after training.
Super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And my name is Amari. My major is sociology, so not exactly sure what I want to do, but maybe might be somewhere, not somewhere like instead of somewhere in sure.
Okay.
My name is Marcos, and I want to study abroad because I want to like just make myself more familiar with different cultures, and I'm studying risk management, so I don't really know what I want to do, but I feel like it'd be a good experience.
Yeah,
My name's Geronimo, I'm a finance major, and I think it should be all around a great life experience.
okay, but is there anything like particularly you wanna do?
Well, in the business world, you could work, well, I would like to use new languages to like expand my horizons in business.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, my name's Sebastian, like kind of similar to what he said, like I'm a business major as well, so like learning those cultures could definitely take you places.
Yeah, no, that's solid, and it's good to meet you guys. I'm trying to keep this quick, so I'm just gonna go quickly through this. When you look at study abroad programs, there's a lot of things that you hear about, right? Like, and you're like, oh man, where is this gonna be? What am I gonna do? What do I need to know? I want to apply for a Gilman. I have no clue how to make sense of what's up and what's down on the US Department of State site, right? Don't believe me? Just try it. Go there today. Tell me how to do levels. But what Global Scholars gives you is it's a support program. So it's not a program in the sense of like, you sign up and we say, all right, we're sending you to a Kenyan internship that you're going to be working with President Reform. By the way, I know one. But what we do is we actually say, all right, so this is what you want to do. Come to us, very similar to with ONF, come to us with an opportunity that you're really interested in being able to do, and we will make sure that you get that support, that you know what FSU is requiring you to do, that you have an ethical background in basic background in like the ethics of it, right? Nursing, right? I almost overlooked, I'm sorry. You want to go in and do nursing. Well, what if you were to go into a spot and you were to do nursing, but you weren't really trained well enough to do what they wanted you to do, right? And they're like, oh, you're a nurse is a nurse is a nurse. And then the next thing you know, there's like blood everywhere, right? How are you going to react? For you, that's a lot. If you're doing things that you're not necessarily doing, there's ethics involved, both to protect yourself as well as to protect the community that you get into. We talk about that. And lastly, we really try to help you massage this into your overall time at FSU. So if you're looking into sports, right? If you're looking into like sports medicine or something like that, how do you find an internship to do that? And so one of the big things that I always tell students, and you can come and talk to me to do this, my background is international education, and I've done actually most of those opportunities as far as like study abroad versus an exchange versus just working. I've done a lot of things. I can talk to you about it. But what a lot of people do is that they see a program and they say, this program, this is what I'm going to do. But they don't ask, what am I getting out of that program? And that's really what we do in Global Scholars. We do spring, summer, fall. So your opportunity would have to be in the summer. And we actually work with you guys on that. The nice thing is, anything that qualifies for Gilman, you can do for us. And if you're wondering, oh, how do I get credit because I want to do an internship in Kenya with a group that helps students get back into, that helps youth that have been through the prison system get back into, or the criminal justice system get back into society, how do I make that count, right? And we'll help you figure out, okay, what are the internships? Jesse has worked with me on these on multiple occasions, mostly good. Occasionally it doesn't work out, but that's why we talk about it. And the sooner you come in and you can do this. And actually, if you're already thinking about Gilman or you're thinking about something else with ONF, we actually ask that in our application. So if you come in and you say, I'm going to do a Gilman, this is what I want to do. My job is actually not to tell you to do something else. I'm going to try to get you as close to it as possible. Does that make sense? So that's how we kind of work together. Our application's open on the 7th. Now that that's recorded, check it out at CRE. Grab a sticker, grab a card, and yeah. I'll turn things back over. Sorry, that went a little over.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you going through the room and kind of getting a survey of who's in the space, because whether it's business, whether it's environmental studies or prison reform. I mean, Warren and I have been doing this work long enough to know, oh, these are instantly programs that you can look into. And if you don't vibe with that, then we can find something else, because I know Florida State I think they have a business program in South Korea. I've seen environmental programs from New Zealand, to Latin and South America. And then I have a student who did a sports therapy program in Mexico or Costa Rica, if I recall. You know, so there are plenty of opportunities out there, and please feel free to come in and talk to us. And so, so we wrapped up about 20 minutes early, which for us, I think is pretty damn good. And so feel free, if you have questions, whether you're joining us virtually, you know, or in person, please feel free to ask. But otherwise, if you need to head out, thank you so much for joining. Yes.
Okay, so to get in contact, do I like email you or like want to get this connect?
You can do either. If you find my information on Campus Connect, I'll admit my availability is a little bit more limited. Just because I'm usually reading essays before I'm meeting with students, so I have to like allocate time to both read and to chat. So I have more availability than what is listed on Campus Connect. If that availability works for you, by all means sign up. I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think it's from 2:30 to 4:30. You know, otherwise I'm happy to schedule a different time. But yeah, no, if you email me, just say like, you know, hey, it's me. Please be more specific to that. But you know, list like your the days and times you're usually available, and I'll match that with my schedule.
With the Gilman, do you see that there's like higher rates of acceptance depending on where somebody is in their like academic path, like later, like if you're a senior or something applying?
Not, I wouldn't say there is, because they like, so the review committee is much better than some of the other ones that I have served on. They understand that students are coming from like many different backgrounds, and some students don't even hear about Gilman until like it's their last semester. So it's really about how you fold it into your academic journey, because I've had students that have, you know, they've obviously found a more tactful way to say this, but it's like, hey, look, this is my last summer that I'm going to be a student, and I have worked to afford college all 4 years, and I just want to go and study in Valencia because I want to have a good time. I want to celebrate my college. We found a more academic way to present that, obviously, you know, but it's like, yeah, that's something you deserve. And then I've had students that from review committees that I've been on, who are undergraduate students like in their 40s and 50s. It's like, hey, look, I'm a mom, and you know, I the last 20 years I've been raising my kids, and then I finally gone back to school, you know, and this is why I'm pursuing this program in Thailand. You know, and so it's about its relevance relative to where you are, because for a first year student applying, your story is going to be different than a fourth year senior, you know. And so I wouldn't say they skew one way or another. No. Yes.
Could you go over the difference between like the global, like the scholarships that are more, or the programs that are more internship based than learning based? Like are the internship based ones more lean towards seniors and stuff?
Not necessarily. So Gilman used to have a preference for internship programs, but it's been years since they've removed that. There are programs like at Florida State, for example, like if you're in the College of Social Sciences, like the Social Science Scholar Program is a fantastic opportunity that I think you need to be a sophomore to qualify for. You know, but they would fund both a domestic or international internship or research project in your field. So there may be some programs. So when you think of internships specifically, those may skew towards upper division students, but that doesn't mean you can't find something, say, through like Global Scholars, for example.
Yeah, and so really, I mean, and I don't want to say an internship's an internship, but at the end of the day, it's about knowing what you want to get out of it. And FSU uses internship pretty loosely. So like we can count people volunteering with an NGO that's doing necessarily what you want to do could count as an internship, as well as being officially hired as an intern. So it really depends on how you want to go into it. But I think the bigger step whenever you want to go do this is don't necessarily ask yourself, do I want to do this now or do I want to do this later? That shouldn't be like the first step. Don't try to fit the mold. Literally ask yourself, what do I want to do? If I say, oh, there's an internship, and like you already know there's this awesome internship that I want to apply for, it's here and it fits this particular scholar or this particular fellowship, do it. The reason why internships tend to skew later, generally, in my experience, is because students have longer to think about that. You've been in business school, and you're like, oh man, yeah, I really like entrepreneurship and I want to go hunt invasive lionfish in the Caribbean. I don't know, I'm throwing something out there because that's a random idea. Like you don't really get those ideas until later. But if you've already got that and this is your first semester at FSU, talk to me and Jesse and we'll get it done. I think the benefit of something, and I'm just to be a shameless businessman, The benefit of something like Global Scholars is if you don't have those later years and you do it through Global Scholars, we can give you that support and give you those extra questions that you wouldn't necessarily have gotten because this is your first or second
Yeah.
semester.
It really depends on your field too, because say for nursing, for example, if you know like, hey, there's some certifications that I need to get, some field experience that I need to get before I step in, then okay, great, yeah, fine, we can help you find those programs, like the medical response unit on campus at Florida State is a really excellent program to get engaged with your community. But for other fields, I've had students, again, depending on what you want to do, I've had students that come in and are native speakers of Spanish, and it's like, this is community I know I want to work with long term. As a freshman, as a sophomore, I know I can pursue this internship experience because I can communicate with the populations that I need to. Okay, great. So it's so again, just to emphasize what Warren said, it's really about knowing yourself, knowing what you need, what you want, and being able to kind of piece it into what that academic trajectory looks like for you over the next 4 years, 3 to 4 years. So I hope that answers your question, but there's no like right or wrong way to pursue. Well, maybe there's a couple wrong ways, but there are many more right ways to pursue international opportunities as long as you're developing the skills and the knowledge that you need. Yes.
Question. How would we contact ONF? I was sort of late, so I'm not sure what ONF.
No, that's fine. So anyone, so from Dr. Filer down to Keyshawn, any one of us would be more than happy to meet with you. And so just send us your availability, days and times that work for you. And we could set up a meeting as early as this Thursday or Friday, or look at something next week. In that interim, what I would recommend is like, if you're thinking about Gilman, you like go to the website, peruse their resources, read the prompts, and maybe kind of get an idea for like, okay, this is what is expecting of me. And then look at some possible programs. And if that's, I'm happy to help you with this, but you can start looking at programs that might be relevant for you. Like start with international programs, start with global exchanges, read a little bit up on Global Scholars, look through your Florida State resources, but then or AIFS, which was in the presentation earlier, they have a lot of opportunities as well. So if you have an idea for what you want to do, great, but it's not necessary. Other thoughts, questions?
Alright, so, but also to ask for you to differentiate between them, so Global Scholars is more like the hands-on internship and.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah, you want something more practical, go with.
Well, you can use an organized program for it. So we have had students that do that, but we're gonna give you a little bit extra requirements such as blogging and really asking you to dig into your experience a little bit more that you wouldn't necessarily get. Traditionally speaking, yes, it's an internship, but it's really a Swiss Army knife program. It can fit pretty much any program you want it to
So
be
if
in.
you're, like, I want to avoid, like, I'm trying to avoid mostly like the work and courses parts of it, like the learning part. Not to say I don't want to learn anything,
Yeah,
but I want to.
we're gonna make you reflect, and so that's why it can be used within an internship portion. So depending on what you're doing, and then we would probably go and talk and say, you said you did business, right?
Or environmental science.
Environmental science. What we would say is like, okay, if you need to do a Gilman, and I would ask these questions now. What do I need for my internship? Is there a particular class that I need to do? All of that sort of stuff, so that we can actually address that within Global Scholars. So that, not to say you're doing the bare minimum, not to use that one, but to be able to then backtrack it and say, okay, you're going to have this experience. This is the reflection we require for Global Scholars, which is your blog and your capstone experience, which we'll talk about later. But for the internship, you're enrolled in this class, you're not running into anything, and there is a potential for you to get, well, you are getting credit for it now. So absolutely, you could do that. And what's nice about Global Scholars is it gives you enough structure to qualify for something like Gilman. If you wanted to volunteer with a group in a conservation group in Brazil, which again, I know a place and we can talk about that later.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you're gonna find likely is like, okay, hey, there's this study program that perfectly aligns with what I want to do. And then maybe there's this internship program that perfectly aligns with and there's no like, right or wrong way to approach that. Cause like, okay, well, maybe you go get the hands-on experience. Great, and then maybe you can pursue the study aspect later or vice versa. Because what Gilman likes to see is they like to see students go and participate in their program, or a program that qualifies for Gilman, and then continue that study throughout their time as an undergraduate or into graduate school, and hopefully pursue maybe a Boren scholarship or a Fulbright scholarship or one of their other affiliated programs through IIE, and so these things can snowball. And I have had students in the past who have received a Gilman to pursue an environmental studies program in India, and then went on to apply for, oh my goodness, they applied for an NSF GRFP, was a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program, which would fund graduate school that they received, and then went on to pursue their masters at Penn State, following their time abroad. That was a very impactful program for them. Or another student that pursued an international program in your field that then went on to apply for the Udall Scholarship, which is for students that want to study environmental issues, and that's something that you can apply to as a sophomore, as a junior, to receive a scholarship that you can apply towards books, tuition, and fees. And then they send you out to Arizona over the summer to participate in a conference for Udall scholars. So it's like these things all kind of bleed into one another, so like a Gilman experience here could lead to maybe a Udall experience there, could lead to another fellowship, and so hopefully if you start early, which is why most of you are hopefully here, this can continue to snowball up until your senior year. And then when we're talking about our Fulbrights, our Rhodes scholarships, our Marshall scholarships, our Truman scholarships, like some of these upper echelon awards, you have the resume to back up your experience. Maybe you have the international experience, you have the internship experience, you've taken the courses, you've built relations with your faculty. And so you can very confidently speak to it. Like I just sat on these interviews this morning for the Marshall Scholarship, where students are really defending, these are the passions that I have, this is what I want to do, and this is why this scholarship is really necessary for me to get to where I want to go. And obviously I'm speaking years in the future, but it all starts with, maybe a Global Scholars opportunity or a Gilman scholarship or something like that, and see where that takes you.
And that is, I'm sorry to keep cutting in on that, but
Good
it is
on it.
another thing that we do in the fall is that when you come back, whatever your experience was, again, if you did an organized program, if you did an internship, we say, okay, well, what's next? So actually we will put you back into O&F if you went through a Gilman experience already, or we'll say, okay, well, maybe you want to do something with a study abroad, or you want to do an exchange. If you just want to go to grad school, or you're thinking about med school or law school, if you're in criminal justice, we will say, all right, that's cool. Go talk to the Career Center. And so the other nice thing is that when you come back in the fall class, yes, we build a big presentation and we give it, but the real thing that we want you to be able to take away is to be able to say, all right, cool, that was a nice experience. How is that relevant to me? And then being able to identify somewhere on campus that's going to help you get to that next step, which is like what Jesse was saying, what these programs should be doing in general. So yeah.
I should have apologized to everyone attending virtually because I just left them on that contact information screen that entire time. So oops, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
But do you have any other questions or anything that you'd like to talk about? If not, again, thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we would love to talk to you further. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. If you didn't sign in, please write down your email, and I'll send you a recording of this presentation just in case you need it, or just to reach out to you with, just to remind you, like, hey, let's set up that one-on-one meeting. We also have kind of cool stickers. Thank you all. Appreciate it.